Hello and welcome to the Surgical Spirit podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Haidar Al-Hakim, the Third Eye Doctor. Pull up a chair and get ready for some candid and uncompromising discussion with experts, innovators, agitators, and influential people from every corner of health and well-being. From inside the hospital to at home in the kitchen, we're leaving no stone unturned in our quest to uncover the secrets of healthier, happier, more successful, and less stressful lives. Thank you so much for joining us, and without further ado, let's meet this episode's guest. Hello, Shonette. Do you know what? I can't say your name properly. It's so posh.
Yeah, you can. Shonette.
Shonette. There you go. It's very posh. Who gave it to you?
It's not posh, really. My mum was a hippie because I was born in 1972. So my mum was a hippie, and it's the words sunshine and sonnets put together. But I come from a northeastern seaside village where everybody was called Sharon and Tracy. So I grew up being Shonette, and everybody's like, Shonette? Like, what? So,
what the fuck is that?
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't that posh, let me tell you. But now it's made me top at Google, so that's good.
and what was it like back in the 70s being called that name? Did you have any funny memories?
Well, I just hated it because everybody was called Sharon, and like my best friend was called Helen. And in the register, when people, you don't want to be noticed, do you, at that age? And in the register, they'd go Shonette, and then they go Shonette, and then you'd like be like, yeah, and then they'd like want to know why you were called Shonette and not Sandra or something like that, you know. So I got too much attention from it, whereas now I like the attention that I get from it.
Absolutely. When do you think that sort of flipped for you from no thanks, no attention to yes please, bring it on?
Probably about 10 years ago when I started to go out speaking. I think then people were like Shonette, and then it's like a name, and then it suits my personality, I think, because I think my personality is so effervescent that you can't forget it. So it's like a good label, isn't it, having a different name?
Yeah, I mean, I saw you on the stage in a entrepreneur meeting, and I said to myself, I've got to speak to her today. Now, when you came off. So what happened 10 years ago?
10 years ago, I invented something in education called Do Disco, and it was a fine muscle exercise using neuroscience for young children to be able to get their brain to connect to their fingers faster so that they could write quicker, basically. But I didn't use traditional teaching methods to do it. I actually went out as a teacher myself and learned neuroscience so that I could benefit my teaching in a different direction instead of the traditional, because for me the traditional style wasn't working with modern children. And that was 10 years ago.
Why wasn't it working? Is it because of your experience?
It wasn't working because that 10 years ago was when technology started to become available in people's homes more readily. And I think 10 years ago, we as a society stopped moving as much as we need to develop the child's, well, to develop ourselves, but to develop children. You know this as doctors, so you need 6 human years of physical movement before your brain learns your body, your fingers last of all. So children stopped moving. People would drive into the post box 2 doors down, and the same with children. Children stopped moving, and we as a society kind of became lazy, I think, and that really impacted on children coming into school. They weren't ready. They aren't ready now, even more so now. I think the scary statistic I just learned is 86% of 3-year-olds have a device of some sort.
And I mean, I had a guest on. He's a chiropractor, and we talked about how actually movement is normal, not sort of the other way around. You have to go out there and go to the gym, and you have to move, and whereas in fact actually human beings are about movement. and
Yeah.
it's really abnormal to be sitting down. It's really abnormal to be sitting in a car, or on a chair or behind the desk. It's actually very abnormal.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why we get all these chronic diseases. So yeah, fingers, that's really interesting. Fingers, because I'm a fan of fingers, because I use my fingers all the time.
Mm.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Sort of that, because it has both expression and movement.
And it's an essential part of your body, isn't it? You need your fingers for so many things. I speak with my fingers. I've just recently got a puppy, and he, in his training, and the trainer was saying to me, it's your body language. It's your body language that the puppy reads, not what you say to the puppy. It's your actual body language, and that's really interesting, isn't it? As well, in that sense. But I think, with Do Disco as well, it became such a phenomenon in education. It still is, and we've just been having a conversation this morning, early morning, with a teacher in Vietnam, that it's now done in like 32 different countries around the world. We have a massive education movement around it called Spread the Happiness, and actually something, a little idea where I went out and thought differently to other people, actually snowballed then into the fabulous life I have today.
It's absolutely amazing. I mean, watching you doing your dough actually turns me on.
Is it my sausage? Is it my sausage?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that sausage gets longer and longer every time you sort of massage it.
You just call me, don't you, to sausage? That's all you want.
I think it's a subconscious childhood generational thing of seeing fingers with doughs and all that.
I have got a lot of friends on Facebook because of Do Disco for the wrong reasons. Do Disco After Dark, I think I should call it, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. I'll definitely subscribe to that, and even if there's sort of a paid subscription with sort of Do Disco fetishes.
Probably get more likes on Facebook if I did that, wouldn't I?
Of course you would, yeah. I mean, I saw one of your comedy sketches recently, talking about being that, cougar. Yeah, I'm up for that,
You're up for cougars. Cougaring about. Just cougaring.
With the Do Disco. So,
Focus!
What, 4 kids? Yeah, I've got 3 kids, yeah.
Yeah, four children, yeah. That sucks your happiness out.
Well, kind of. So Do Disco, tell us more about it. How did you get the idea?
Well, I trained with the Institute for Neurophysiological, IMPP. Dr. Sally Goddard Blythe is the doctor there, and everything resonated with me about child development, and lots of problems children have in school are physical, to do with their physical development. But we as teachers don't know that information, so we just try to tackle the problem instead of looking at what the actual start of the problem and how we can iron that out. And so Do Disco, they have an exercise called tapping, where they tap their fingers to get the brain working bilaterally. And things like brain gym were always too complicated for me. Like, I could never do all that brain gym stuff. And with the neuroscience, with the IMPP, they seemed quite simplistic. I think I'm just like simple. Lots of things in life are worked out simply, but we overcomplicate it. So since then I've designed Do Disco, and then I've designed Squiggle Whilst You Wiggle and a maths program, so that you can inject them into the day, into your teaching day, and it makes massive impact. And I think that for me is the key about anything that I do, including the happiness injection, the comedy, everything. I'm really passionate about making an impact on other people, to help them see that actually if you just flip a couple of simple changes in there to your general routine, you can actually have a massive impact on your life as a whole, I think.
And you know, you're quite an innovator. I mean, you know, taking dough and associating it with education and children and neuroscience, it's sort of very, very innovative and very creative.
Definitely creative and definitely innovative and also impacting, because it do disco done. We use draw a person, which is an approach by a scientist called Naglaleri, and basically when a child draws a person, they will just draw what their brain is connected to. So they draw themselves and they draw what their brain's connected to, and it's an amazing assessment tool. So within 4 to 6 weeks of doing Door Disco every day, a child even as young as 2 will draw fingers on their person, which shows the acceleration of the brain to finger merriment. So as well as being fun and a little bit crazy, and like you said, people watch it and they're like, what is she doing? It's also got a really serious science to it, which I love, because I think that's the thing about me. I always innovate these solutions, but then people are like, well, that's just a bit crazy. So there's always a really deep science in it for me that I've learned before and researched, and child development is just a big passion, because mainly I'm really passionate about children in deprivation, because the government always talk about breaking the poverty cycle, but I'm not really sure in my experience that anybody is really interested in breaking the poverty cycle. But with education and physical development, you can bridge that gap. And if a child coming from a troubled area or an interesting area, we call it, has that advantage, you know, who knows what they could go on to achieve. So that's where my heart is, really, my little heart.
Yeah, you got a massive heart, I think.
Thanks.
You know, you've got a sort of heart the size of the world, to be honest, because you know, listening to you speak, you do put your heart out there.
Yeah, I do, because I think that the world is full of people who don't put their hearts out there, and I think as well, you know, you've got to take a risk. You know, just recently, over the past 10 days, I've been speaking in different places, and the key message at the end that they keep coming up with, which isn't my key message, is let's take more risks. And maybe as a society, we've become so safe. We're so safe in health and safety, in personal safety, and, you know, we don't put ourselves out there. But I think we need more people being real and putting ourselves out there. I just do.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, that's why I'm putting out this podcast, is sort of to listen to real talk, really.
Yeah.
You know, talk that's not really heard from, and just putting our hearts out there and our minds, and so try and come up with some kind of sense in this craziness. Yeah,
exactly. And do you know what my philosophy is? It's a poem, and it's called Everything I Learned in Kindergarten. So everything you learn about in the sandbox, in, you know, drinking milk and cookies with your friend, you know. And the biggest thing for me in that poem is hold hands and stick together. When you go out into the world, whatever profession you are, hold hands and stick together, because that's how you make it through. And as an adult, we feel self-conscious about that. You know, we want to be friends with other adults, but we're a bit more self-conscious. We're not like children. We don't go up to each other on the Play-Doh table and say, will you be my friend? You know, but we should. We should do that. And now we use headphones and we hide in our devices. But actually, I'm just a big, firm believer in going round just making eye contact with people.
Definitely. I mean, we had a big, nice hug together when we met.
Yeah.
And
well, here's a top tip, number one for your listeners. Okay, to transfer love to another person, you actually have to hug for 7 seconds.
Excellent.
But most people only hug for 3, not transferring nothing. You're that awkward.
Let me go. I think we did
Yeah.
it for over 7 seconds. I think we had a nice long one.
Yeah, but that's just awkward. Ah!
Oh, okay,
And the
fair.
other thing, and the other thing is, don't count while you're hugging. Don't be like 1, 2, 3 out loud, because it just the other person will be like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, bomb's about to go off. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's just for the breathing, isn't it? Sort of counting one.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, the other day I did it in a conference, and two tech guys were like just having the most awkward 7 seconds of their life. Like their faces were just so awkward, but it was funny, and even
Bless
they
them, bless
laughed,
them.
you know. But as adults, even if you're in a relationship, you don't tend to touch other people
Mm.
as much as you do as a child. As a child, you don't think twice about hugging your friend or holding hands or doing that. That connection is lost very much so. And I think, sometimes in conference when people are hugging, or even we do this hokey cokey, we call it the hokey cokey cover version. So where you go running into the middle, you do that to your friends, so you're like, whoa, hokey cokey. And people, at first it's just so awkward for them, but then people like get really close up, nipple to nipple. It's brilliant. I love it. But I'm a touchy
I'm getting
person.
excited here. Yeah.
No, you are. We touchy feely.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. How about these lyrics of Do Disco, the music? Where's that from?
And well, it's actually from a man I met at the same conference I met you at.
Oh, right.
He went away. He was totally inspired. He wrote a song, and then he was like, "Right, I've wrote a song for you, and now we have like a Do Disco song." And you know, that's like when things like that happen, it just makes me so appreciate my life, because I think, wow, something that I just invented in my own classroom now is like international. People write songs for it. And recently, somebody ran up to me in the airport when I was at the airport. They ran up to me and they were like, "Ah, Do Disco lady." So I feel like Mariah Carey now, because somebody ran up to
Better.
me at the
Come
airport.
on. You look better than her.
Oh, thanks. I'll tell her you said that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've never met her. I'm sure she's very nice lady. Um, so how many schools have you brought the dough into?
I don't actually have a count. Every year we do like International Do Disco Day, and we even have a Guinness World Record
Yay.
for the most people modelling. We weren't allowed to call it Do Disco, and we weren't allowed to call it Play Doh. We weren't allowed to say that. So the Guinness World Record gave us the most people ever to model with modeling clay simultaneously.
Why do they have to be so? Yeah.
Why don't I have that in my bio?
Yeah. No, forget that.
Because it's crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't make
But
sense.
basically, it's a Do Disco world record, and that was a good few years ago now. And we had about 2,000 people do that, even people in the Middle East, and China do disco.
And these were
So
adults or children or
well,
mixture.
it's
Yeah.
meant to be for children, but I think adults enjoy it as well. I think adults enjoy it, and it makes them laugh. Even just watching the videos, even if you're not interested, watch the videos of me on YouTube on Spread the Happiness TV, because they make you just funny. And the other thing is, I did it for the NHS, and then people took it into dementia care homes, and they did it with dementia patients. And now in our Spread the Happiness community, we have about nearly 2,000 members of that currently, and they take their children, their classes, into old people's homes and do disco with old people in old people's homes, which the videos are so beautiful of that, of just really, really make me cry, to be honest, because it's just beautiful seeing children in with old people. In an English society, I don't think we have a love of old people. They kind of just there, And I think that the Spread the Happiness movement is really getting people thinking about, because most schools are near an old people's home,
Yeah.
near a
Yeah.
care home, and everybody's DBS cleared and all that kind of stuff, so you can go in and do stuff. So I think that's really nice side of Door Disco, is that it also spreads the happiness, really, not just to find muscle exercise.
And it's a really interesting human interaction between the different generations. The young and the old, and you see some
Yeah,
great connections happening.
yeah,
It's amazing.
exactly. Yeah, and I think as well, to me, happiness is where children are, because children are just happy. Some children aren't happy, but you have to look at the parents, I think, and then you
Yeah.
think, oh yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
But most children are happy, and most people, when you look at a child, if they're in a supermarket, if they're on a bus, or you're just there next to you with, talking to their parents, or whoever. Like, I seen a granddad walking, well, he's actually a great granddad walking with his great granddaughter, and he said, I'm exhausted. I said, I know, but I bet she makes you happy. He was like, she makes me so happy, because children have that natural effervescence, and I have that natural effervescence. In the science of happiness, you lose your happiness at the age of 10, scientifically.
Wow.
I know.
I mean, I would have thought maybe it's a bit later.
No, 10.
10.
That's
Is there a
the
reason? I mean, what would...
because at 10 you realize there's an end to life. You realize that there's actual an end, and also people start to say to you at 10, come on, you need to be more serious. You realize that you've got to start thinking about other things than rainbows and unicorns and pirates. That's the thinking.
Yeah.
But I think that you can, as an adult, work out how, when were you 10? Okay, so say, like, I'm 46, so that was 36 years ago. If I lost my happiness at 10, which I didn't, but if I did lose my happiness at 10, how could I get that back at 46? And actually, it stems from your childhood. You just need to look back and think about, what did you really enjoy as a child? So my PA, she is 41, and when she heard me say this the first time, she started thinking, what did I enjoy? And she realised that she really enjoyed skipping, not with a rope, just skipping along the street. And she stopped skipping because somebody said to her, she was skipping, and they said, if you skip along like that at your age, you're going to get locked up. Okay, that's what they said. So as in your mental, so they'll lock you up. And she stopped skipping. So when she heard me say that, she thought about it. So she went to some woods with her dogs, and she thought, nobody's here, I'm just going to skip. And she started skipping, and now she skips all the time. She has George Ezra, George Ezra, the musician. She calls it Ezra skipping. So she has her headphones on, she puts George Ezra on, and she just skips. And she actually, I tried it after she said it. I thought, yeah, I don't skip actually. You don't see adults skipping down the street, do you? So I started skipping, and it just brings that kind of childlike, carefree joy. So think about what made you happy in your childhood and try to do that. Like, if you like to hokey cokey, say to your partner tonight, let's hokey cokey. Let's move the furniture and just hokey cokey.
Yeah, I mean, you guys should see her in action. It's very infectious. So what made you happy when you were a child, and that you're still doing now?
Well, actually, funnily enough, I was doing it this morning. I live near the beach, and I grew up by the beach, and my dad was a fisherman. And I don't like fish because of that, because we ate a lot of fish. But what makes me happy is going in the sea. So I put my wellies on this morning. I went to the beach. The dog was skipping along, and I was skipping along, and the waves were going crashing on my wellies, and I was going deeper, and then they splashed up my legs, and that makes me happy, like jumping into the sea.
And fluid splashing up your legs. Great, yeah. That's
That's like 46-year-old happiness. What else makes me happy is singing
Yeah.
out loud. I cannot sing, but singing. I think just I'm going tonight to an event with my comedy partner Howell. Him and his wife have a pub, and at this pub they have all sorts of like shows and stuff. And I'm going to a show tonight, and they'll be singing, and I can't wait. I don't drink, so
Mm.
because I'm so happy. If I have a drink, then I'm just like off my head. So I just like things. If I feel a bit miserable, do you like music? If I feel a bit
Yeah.
miserable,
Yeah.
I put on a song and I'll just dance around.
Yeah.
And when I travel with my PA on a morning, she'll come in the room and she'll say, "Let's put the radio on." And then a song will come on, and the next minute we'll be on the bed like jumping up and down. And then we'll be like, "Let's Instagram this." We love Instagram, so we'll be like, "Let's Instagram this," and then like people will be like laughing. And I just think that when it's that Roald Dahl phrase, "Be so happy that it shines out your face and makes others happy." That's when I do those things, I get so happy. It infects other people, and I think that's a good kind of infection.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we all get infected with all sorts of things, and having that positive and that happy infection is great. People worry about what other people think about them.
Yeah, they do.
How do you get over that?
Well, do you know what? I had a realization. I think it was my mum who said this to me. We are all so worried about what other people think about us, right? Every adult is, even the most confident of
Mm.
adults is
Mm.
worried about what other people think about us. So while we're all worried about what other people think about us, other people are worried what we think about them. So everybody's just worried, right? So actually, nobody cares. Like if
Yeah.
like for me, because I'm so happy, one of my favorite things, and people might say I live in a bubble, but I go to the supermarket, a cheesy song comes on, and I'm freaking out by the biscuits. I just like, why not? Like, let's just freak out by the biscuits. And this summer, a magical thing happened because the happier I'm becoming, and the more I'm not allowing that my own lemon sucker, because I think you can have a big lemon sucker in your own head, and that's worrying about what people think about you. So I just kind of think, actually stop that, because I'm happy, I'm creating that emotion. And a lady came alongside me in the biscuits, right? And she starts dancing, and then she goes whoop with her fingers like to pass the dance on. She starts a dance off with me. So we did not go on social media. We did not get our phones out and record it. We just danced with each other. We didn't even have a conversation. At the end of the song, we burst out laughing, walked off, never saw her again. Brilliant. Like, I'll never forget that.
And sort of gradually the sort of inhibitions disappear, and it just becomes normal after a bit. It just
Yeah, it
becomes
does.
natural.
And because, do you know what it is? I think people who are enjoying life, like really enjoying life, and happiness is a choice, but we all know that. So why don't we choose it?
Yeah.
It's like we all know that we need to move more and eat less, but we don't.
Mm.
It's all a choice. But happiness is exactly the same. It's an emotion, and you can create that emotion. You can create it instantly in your working day. So we have a thing called personal anthem, because I think that life, people who are in professions like ours, like teachers and doctors and nurses, and, we are caring people, and we're nice people, and we just do what we're told. So if the government says do this, we do it. We might say, "Oh, we're going to have a strike," but then we quieten down and we just get on with it, don't we? So for me, I think we've got to, in this modern age, flip our thinking a little bit more into kind of like a boxer. Like a boxer does not go into the ring like thinking, "Oh, I'm a bit tired, I'm a bit miserable, it's Monday, can't wait for Friday." They go in that ring, don't they? And they're like, boom, 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 boom. Right? So I did this about 2 years ago. Okay, I flipped my thinking on a morning when I was going to work. I thought, right, I'm just going to be like a boxer. So how does a boxer get into the ring? That kind of mentality. They have a personal anthem. They
Yeah.
also have shiny shorts and a nice dressing gown.
Yeah.
But
Plus they
they
got a
can't
six
all go
pack,
to work.
and yeah, they go topless. Yeah, that's
I
another way
probably
of going.
wouldn't get in school if I dressed like that. So I thought they've got a personal anthem, so I downloaded like a personal anthem, and I played it in the car on the way in. Like somebody has messaged me on Twitter today and said theirs is Eminem. I can't remember which one, but you know Eminem. It's like, she's going in there today, and she's like Eminem, and I just love that. I love that kind of.
So, what's your personal anthem? What is it?
Who's That Girl by Eve.
Sing it for us.
That girl, la 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 la. Who's that girl? I cannot sing, can I? But
Yeah, I know, definitely. I mean, I've got quite a few actually, and
go on. What's yours?
I think it's "Eye of the Tiger." My one. Is. Yeah, I just get a bit. Yeah. I can't sing, and I'm not going to try. But...
Eye of the Tiger.
Cool. So, the dough, you've sort of, it's gone international. Is there differences between different education system, children, or is it all pretty much the same?
No, it's all the same because humans, I hate to tell you, are all the same. They all have a brain. It develops exactly the same way. It doesn't matter where you come from, does it? It's exactly the same. And that's the thing about Dough Disco, is it's so simple and it's uniting an education community, because what we've started from that is a positive education community. Because you can get into, in any career, you do a career, I mean the science is if you do anything for more than 3 years you get stuck in a rut. So if you have had a relationship for more than 3 years, if you've had a same job for more than 3 years, you can get stuck in a rut. But in our community we set challenges on a monthly basis. So we do different kinds of challenges. You'd have a career challenge, a personal challenge, a challenge with your class, and a community challenge, because kindness is such a cliche, but actually it is such a powerful tool in choosing happiness. Because if I ever wake up, and there are days sometimes that I wake up probably the same as you, and I'm in a dark place, then I go and I make myself do a random act of kindness. Especially we work with the homeless shelter, our local homeless shelter, which has 48 beds and then 26 in another location. So I might wake up and actually I think it's tomorrow, I'm baking pasties for the homeless shelter, and in my freezer, and I'm not like a pastry maker, so I've bought like loads of frozen pastry. Every time I open the freezer I feel excited that pastry is there, that I'm going to be making them pasties with my mum. We have such a beautiful time. We take them to the home. We never see anybody eat the pasties. We don't we don't even have a conversation really. We just hand them over and they go, "Oh, thanks, you're so amazing." And I don't even expect that, because that process between making the pasties and delivering the pasties is enough. And when I drive home, I think about people who are hungry having a big pasty in the tummy.
Yeah. I mean that's absolutely amazing. You've worked in different cultures. I mean, are some cultures more resistant to sort of happiness and laughter, or does anything sort of stick in your mind?
Yeah, I think that when I go to different cultures, like I've done a lot of work in the Middle East, for example, at first, and Egypt, that was another one, at first people are almost like I don't know what the word is. It's like
crazy.
They're almost like, this is crazy. Like, what is this? But what I call my keynote speech is permission to. So, for example, in next week, I'm going to speak to accountants.
Good luck.
Sorry, I'm just laughing because accountants and Shonette are like polar opposites. But when they saw me, this accountancy company, they were like, "We need you to come to our ball, and we need you to come and speak to our accountants," because what is crazy to them is actually what they need, because I'm lying, I've met 2 people probably who say, I don't need happiness in my life, I'm happy like this. We call them happiness terrorists, because they just don't want to be happy. They no interest in happiness, just enjoy being miserable and infecting other people. I think very often happiness terrorists get a kick out of making other people miserable. So for somebody, if they work with somebody like me, they just find me totally irritating, totally like, why do you want to be like that? And almost want to just suck all of that happiness out. But I think, I've got an abundance of happiness, so I'm lucky. But if you're like a normal person with a normal level of happiness and you work with a happiness terrorist, this can be destructive.
Yeah.
It can be destructive to you so physically, it can be destructive to you mentally, and you stay in there because you think they're going to change. They're not. I don't think happiness terrorists want to change. Lemon suckers are people who've become unhappy since they were 10. So, and lemon suckers, very often when I talk about being a lemon sucker, will cough up their lemon. They'll spit it out. In a school recently, a head teacher sent her biggest lemon sucker to my event, and the lemon sucker went back and wrote a note on her desk, a big note with some flowers saying, "I'm sorry, I've realised I am the biggest lemon sucker in this school."
How'd you do that? How'd you do that?
Because I use comedy really to make people aware about lemon sucking, because sometimes you can just be I can be a lemon sucker as a parent to my children. When I come home from work and all the lights are on in the house, I'm like, oh my goodness, is it Blackpool in here? Who's paying the bill? So, my children were having a nice time till I came home. It's true.
Yeah. So it's sort of realizing, well, comedy is
I think it's saying to people, you can
I'm
be
a
lemon
sucker.
Yeah, but this is the effect you're having, not only on yourself but other people.
Yeah.
And I think in jobs where you work with the public, lemon suckers should not be in that position, because you have a massive power when you work with the public to infect them. And if you're like, I think about secretaries, when you go anywhere and you have to go to reception, and your secretary's like, we went to one the other day, and the secretary had a glass thing, and she was sat and she was just looking at me through the glass, and then so I was there and I was like, hi, big smile, hi, and this is what always makes me laugh about people who speak about positivity. They're like, smile, go out there and smile, infect the world. It don't work like that. You can go out and you can smile and people can just be like looking at you, and eventually you can stop smiling because people don't smile back. This woman was not smiling. She was just, then she answered the phone, then she chatted to her friend. And I'm like at the glass, like, I need to come in, like I'm coming in to do something. So I like tapped on the glass with my finger, and she went, what? Now, that was my first introduction to that workplace. She was the first face. Now imagine, okay, let's flip it. Okay, because she did come to the training, so I bet she is different now. She opening the glass, morning, how can I help you? Instant. You're like, wow, this is a nice place, So I think that by using the term lemon sucker, it's funny, but it is a cultural shift, because people then, in a workplace, if you talk about lemon suckers, when people are then sucking other people's happiness, you can say, are you being a lemon sucker? Or you're sucking my happiness. I think I say that to my children now. It's so funny, like, I say, you are genuinely sucking out my happiness. And my son, who's 17, nearly 18, was like carrying on. And I said, now you're sucking it down. It's now 4. It's now 3. It's now 2. And he's gone, and in the end, he started laughing. He said, sorry, I'm being a lemon sucker. It's like a humorous way to say, can you stop with your negativity?
and it's also a way of separating yourself from the actual negativity. So it's not actually you who's negative. It's actually that lemon or that pineapple or that car
It's if you the way that I thought about lemon sucker was, when somebody puts a lemon in the mouth and it's like so bitter, and they do that first. That's the kind of face lemon suckers do, So just making people aware. But another funny story about this is a girl came to my training about 6 years ago, and she's still in my community now. And she tells a story how she sat there and she thought, I'm a lemon sucker and I need to stop being a lemon sucker. So she went back to work and she did all the things that I'd said. And then 2 years in, she was so happy inside. She genuinely was like changed and happy inside. And she said, but what I realized 2 years in is I forgot to tell my face I'm happy.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah, true.
I love that. It's like, tell your face, let your face show that you're happy. Because some people they're just doing that face because that's what they've always done.
Yeah.
I always feel sorry for people when they've got like that face what is just naturally downturned, because you weren't born like that.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, us doctors, we don't smile much, and the ones that do, patients love them.
Yeah.
It's sort of, as you said, really simple things, but make a massive difference in your life.
I think, as well as doctors, like if you're, one of the things about illness is like when people are miserable or unhappy, they are sicker. I don't know if that's a statistic. I bet it is.
Yeah.
But actually, if you're going to a doctor who's more positive, like, can you imagine me being a doctor?
I'd come and see you.
I'd be like, what's the matter? Come on, let's do some clapping. Let's rock this out. What's your personal anthem? By the time you left, especially those persistent offenders of doctors, people who are coming all the time, that would just suck my happiness out. I'd be like, look, there's nothing wrong with you. Will you get over it? Get out of it.
You can come and work with me anytime for sure. I mean, I had a very good teacher, and probably my best teacher, and he had a smile on his face every day, and he would literally joke with his patients, and he saw, he was a rheumatologist, so he saw all these old ladies with chronic inflammatory disease in their wrists and their ankles and their knees. They go in miserable. Well, not too miserable, because I know they're going to see him. Yeah. And then they come out just laughing and sort of having, and it was amazing how he did that every day. And I didn't have the insight to sort of learn from why he's like that. I'm sure he's been through so many difficulties in his life, which made him realize that actually life is so short. Yeah. Why should we, make it even shorter for ourselves? Why not just elongate it with happiness?
Well, as well, when I wrote my book, Happiness, the Route Map to Inner Joy, one of the facts that I learned when I wrote that was every person born is gifted a life of 4,000 weeks on average. And as doctors, that lots more than most people's stories that people don't live 4,000 weeks. That's only 79. So what we encourage people to do is work out how many weeks you've got left. So I'm 46, I've got 1,607 weeks. Like my mum is 67, she's only got 576, I think, or something like that. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to learn how to cook the Christmas dinner, because like she's so awesome at cooking dinners, but there's not many Christmases left in them weeks, is there? So the reason why we work it out is not to be depressed and go, oh, I've got that many weeks, is to get excited, because like your doctor there that you used as a role model, is the fact that we all work, okay, and I actually love working, you love working, but lots of people don't love working, but you have to work because you maybe's got a mortgage, or like me, you've got loads of children like you've got to feed them, then they bring you a puppy, just saying, right? So we've got to work. But wouldn't it be amazing if every day of work from now on was full of happiness. You felt happier about going to work. You were driving to work and you were actually excited to get there. Then that's what that man, I think, would say to you is, I'm happy every day at work because I'm at work. I've got to be here. So why not be happy while I'm here? Like, to me, that's like that favorite new word, isn't it? No-brainer. It's a no-brainer. It is it because actually, when you're happier, you're healthier. Your well-being goes up. People, I also think you infect other people, and also you learn to see like the funny side. Like, there is a funny side, I think, to most things. You know, I've had loads of things happen to me in my life, but if you switch it to a comedy kind of perspective, it just is easier to deal with, because some situations and some situations that doctors listening to you will deal with will be really difficult situations. But if you're enjoying your work, you know, and you feeling happier, then that most definitely means that the rest of your weeks are going to be happy ones.
Yeah. I mean, I found it really difficult to write my book, and what came to me was actually just write up my cock-ups and have a funny, you know, laugh about it, basically.
Yeah.
Because that's all you can do.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all you can
and
do.
And you know what? I think as well, in this social media world, everybody thinks everybody's perfect. You know, I just bought like this mushroom thing, that because I seen this advert on Facebook, and it was this girl, gorgeous, amazing girl in shorts, going on this mushroom, which is for squats, right? And it was like, you can look like this, right? And I probably was in a mad moment, and I was like, buy that! I want to look like that girl in shorts. I'm gonna look like her, even though I'm like 20 plus years older than her. So, like, I buys it, and it comes, and I'm just like, every time I go on it, but not to look like the girl in shorts, but just for pure comedy. I think I'm going to make a video because I do it in my
pajamas.
I'll
watch that. Yeah, I'll watch that.
You watch me squatting on my mushroom. I'm like, woo, woo. I'm not looking yet like the girl. I'm wondering whether to write to the company.
Well, you know, you can always include it into your workshop. I thought, you know, I think you'll get lots of laughs there. Who was your best role model and mentor and person that really inspired you?
Do you know what? Because mentally I am a child. Mr. Happy, by Roger Hargreaves. That is my own personal self-help book. That's the first book I ever read. I could read by the time I was 3, because my mum was a post office counter woman, and she taught me to read by the time I was 3. So I read Roger Hargreaves, and I read that book so much, and it's so true. Like, Mr. Happy lives in a happy land. He loves everything. He loves the birds. He loves, you know, walking. He loves this. And then one day he finds a door, and he's like, ooh, there's a door. And then he goes, but in the book, it's very clever. I don't know if Roger Hargreaves meant this because he's dead now, so I can't ask him. But Mr. Happy goes down a spiral staircase. Now, there is a book about the upward spiral, about how you can, if you feel yourself going on a downward spiral, how you can actually use tips, and lots of our happiness injection tips make you go on an upward spiral. Okay, if you come to a session with us, you'll be like, woo, like. But Mr. Happy goes on this downward staircase, and at the bottom he meets Mr. Miserable. And there's a picture in the book, and it is my wedding photo of me and my first husband, because I was just so yay. I was like 23. I was so happy, like, and he was not happy. So I just think that Mr. Happy is my role model, because people say lots of things to people who are happy, probably to you. They probably say, you're crazy, you're nice, but you're crazy, or you're mad as a box of frogs, is what people say to me. And I'm like, how mad actually is a box of frogs? Like, if you got a box of frogs, would you think, oh, look at them, they're mad?
Well, they look happy bouncing around, isn't it?
Sliming each other, right? So it isn't that we're crazy. It's just we choose happiness. And if that's crazy, then I'm happy to be crazy, because I switch off negativity. So I listen to radio stations that have news. I don't watch television very much at all. And if I do, it's probably recorded so I can fast forward the adverts, because they suck your happiness out. Look what happened on Facebook. I bought a mushroom because I didn't feel happy, because my body was a little bit flabby. I wanted to get on a mushroom. What is not going to make me look like that girl? Do you see what I mean? And I think comparison can be one of the worst things, can't it? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, comparison is a very lemon sucking activity. I mean, there's one thing that I think comparison is good, is comparing yourself to what you were last year or the year before, in terms of improving yourself.
Yes, I like that.
Yeah, in increasing your levels of happiness.
Growth.
Yeah, growth. Yeah, just increasing.
And do you know what? Actually, you are so right, because we do not do that kind of comparison. We compare ourselves with other people, but we don't compare ourselves with the person we were 6 months ago or the person we were a year ago. And actually, you're so right, because when you do look back and you think, wow, yeah, actually, a year ago in January, that's when I started my self-help comedy shows. And we're now on tour, and we're working towards going to the Fringe in 2019. And, when my PA said this to me the other day, she said, could you just look at how far you've come, please? Because I was like, it's not enough. I want an arena tour. I want to fly in on a Golden Eagle. She was like, but could you just look how far you've come? You thought about what you wanted to do. You created a pathway to do that. You're doing it. And people are now paying to see you. And the money that people are paying to see you, you're using to feed other people. So, wow.
Yeah.
But you're right. You're so right. We should all do that. We should do that more.
Just look back to where you came from and look forward to the happiness that you're going to create for yourself.
Yeah, and others. And, go out in the world and hold hands and stick together.
Yeah.
Even if it's just with one other person. I'm so lucky that I have this community. I genuinely love every single one of them. And I love they're posting things, they're sharing things, and they're all out there infecting other human beings with happiness, not just in their own schools, but in their own lives, in their own communities. And the ripple of that's the most important thing. You get happier after listening to this podcast, and I'm going to be happier from having this conversation with you.
Yeah.
I will then ripple that out today right across everybody I meet, because you can't help it. Yeah,
absolutely. It's been an absolute pleasure. We've learned so much from you. We're super happy. The people listening to this are definitely deciding and having that choice to be more happy. I ask this question to all my guests at the end.
Okay.
What's the naughtiest thing you've ever done?
What's the naughty? I'm so not naughty like that.
Come on.
I know, because I'm a teacher.
Have I made you quiet? I can't believe that.
I know, I'm trying to... Now, do you know what, though? I'm feeling really boring because I haven't got anything naughty.
Well, it could be a happiness naughty or a fun naughty.
I think the naughtiest thing I've ever done is wind up lemon suckers.
Yes, I like that.
I'd be even happier.
Yeah.
Because I work with a lot of lemon suckers, and so over my time I've done really naughty things. Like there was a large lemon sucker. She was very large, and she worked in a school, and she sat on a wheelie chair. She was like 28 years old. And she moved around 4-year-old children on a wheelie chair. And I put the chair in the bin.
Well done. Well done.
She hated me. I think
Good.
That's probably the naughtiest.
Well, I would have
I'm an
clapped.
angel.
Yes, absolutely. I would have clapped, actually. So how can people get hold of you? What's the best way?
I have a website, www.ShonetteBasonWood.com. I, like you, have a podcast called Happiness Injections on iTunes. Woo!
Super.
And we have a happiness festival coming up in June next year, which you can get tickets on Eventbrite, and that is in Birmingham as well. So if you have a lemon sucker, bring them, because I guarantee you, after a day with all the fabulous speakers and dancers and music, they will definitely be coughing up lemons.
Excellent. We're going to sort of put all the bits and pieces on the website and on the links and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be super great. Thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure.
Lots of love and happiness to everyone.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for listening to this installment of the Surgical Spirit podcast. For all the latest in the world of surgical spirit, don't forget to follow on Twitter at The Third Eye Doc, and catch me on Facebook at the page The Third Eye Doctor. You can visit the website at www.thethirdeeyedoctor.co.uk for more information on the work that I do. And please send us feedback and questions and suggestions for the podcast. It's always a pleasure to hear from you. I've been Dr. Haidar Al-Hakim, and I'll see you next time.